Whoa, how did that happen?
Rob must have hit it.
Can we stop that? Stop recording.
How you doing, Steve?
Wait, Ron, that first module that we did with Heather seemed to come out real nice.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome.
But I've been mired with other stuff, so I probably won't hit the ground on that until the beginning of next year.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to reach out to Heather and just let her know. I know she's got other projects going on too.
Yep. Yep. Everybody's kind of crazy from now until the end of the year.
I've got this butterfly. I'm actually going to Atlanta the first week of December to do this butterfly valve training. That is, it's just a massive undertaking to say the least. Got 2 4-inch butterfly valves, a PR demo, a mocked up PR from Joe Car Care with the new fittings.
I'll let her know that you won't be doing much to the first of the year.
I appreciate that. I'll reach out to her one way or another, even before the end of the season, just to say hello and check in. You know, I don't want to be that guy.
I'll be that guy.
Oh, right.
There are a whole bunch of Brian Caggies coming in, just so you know. They're all organizers, so they will be able to speak if they unmute themselves.
Okay, and it seems like that's, I guess Paul was saying that.
He sent out the organizer link.
Right.
And I'm back, but I'm on my phone now. But I'll go on mute when need to. This is Paul.
Yep, gotcha, Paul. How's it going, man?
All right.
Yeah, Paul, for some reason, you're the only one I can see. Like,
I just saw John Rinaldi a minute ago, but
yeah.
Nobody else has their cams on.
Okay. There's John.
there's Brian Kagi, John Rinaldi, aka Brian Kagi. I mean, it's bad enough having one Brian Kagi in this world. Having 2. Well,
Steve, I'm gonna jump off. I don't think you need me anymore.
No, we're good, Ron. We're good. Someone keeps hitting this. Good.
There's a big sense. Yeah. It's exciting. You'll hear about it.
Oh, lucky me.
Well, you won't be involved, hopefully. Here. Yeah.
All right. So on behalf of the nice folks at Broudy Precision, Rob Renz, Anthony Khalil, and myself, Steve Ripka from Belimo, we would like to welcome you all to our webinar on the Belimo sensor product line. This is a product line that was introduced a few years ago, and we have continually been updating it and adding to it. So I think what you'll find by the end of the presentation is that we have a comprehensive sensor offering that you can use to either populate your control submittal or a bill of materials for a project. So what we found was that sensors were a pretty obvious addition to the Belimo product line. You know, of course, we make valves and actuators and always have or have since made actuators since the mid-70s and valves since the late 90s. But in the controls world, we know that information that comes from sensors is used at the controller level to run the control loop and modulate or open and close valves and dampers. So this was a perfect complement to our existing product offering. What we found when we developed our product line is that installation was critical. And we talked to contractors and installers and maintenance guys, and they wanted products that were a little easier to install, a little more intuitive. So that was one of the things we focused on. And you'll see some of the features that I go over really do lead to easy installation. And of course, these are Belimo products. So these are products we make ourselves, we don't purchase. So they have that Belimo reliability and also that Belimo warranty. What we originally started with was what we called a full line of pipe and duct sensors. So we came out with a line of temperature sensors, immersion style sensors for pipe and duct mount humidity sensors, duct mount air quality sensors, duct mount pressure sensors, inline flow metering devices, which you may be familiar with if you're familiar with the energy valve or the EPIV. And then over time, we added some room sensors, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. So of course, there's a lot of sensor products on the market, and you got to wonder, well, why should we use Belimo sensors? I'm sure Rob and Anthony would say, well, because it's Belimo and we generally make pretty good stuff. One of the things we considered was the transition process. So much like our valves and actuators, everything we make is universal and it's designed to work with anybody's control system. So standard outputs from the devices, 10K type 2, 10K type 3, 20K NTC, 0 to 10, 5 to 10, 4 and 0 to 20 milliamps. You know, everything is universal. It's no different than any other input, or there's no specifics to the outputs from the sensing devices that you would have to have some unique input configuration at your controller. So everything's standard. It's really designed for the HVAC industry. So our sensors are really HVAC specific, much like when we talk about our valve and actuator products, they are also HVAC specific. You know, they're designed to work with any manufacturer's control system, and it's a good, seamless retrofit product. So we did think about the retrofit side of the business when designing our duct and pipe sensors. Of course, everything is reliable and accurate. When it comes to the resistive sensing side, our NTC temperature sensors have an accuracy of plus or minus 0.3 degrees Fahrenheit. All of our humidity sensors are plus or minus 2% accuracy. When it comes to our CO2 sensors, it's either going to be plus or minus 50 parts per million or 3% of the total reading accuracy. The absolute water pressure sensor we offer is plus or minus 0.5% of the full scale of the measured range. Our water DP is plus or minus 1% of the measured range. And as you probably know, again, from our EPIV and energy valve offering, our flow meter technology is plus or minus 2% accuracy. And again, this is the same flow meter that we've offered for many years in our pressure independent valve technology. We did design them for easy installation. So some of the things you'll find is that there's only 2 sizes to the sensor housings. So the footprint's going to be very consistent when you're doing an installation. We cover all the applications, so temperature, humidity, IAQ, duct air quality, pressure, flow. And again, these can be used on all the standard equipment in the industry, fan coils, air handlers, chillers, you know, they're very standard HVAC sensors. And the big thing we did, again, is we tried to build a product and develop a product that is easy to install. So they have snap-on covers. It's what we might call a toolless entry. The tech doesn't need to take a screwdriver out of his tool belt to open up that sensor and troubleshoot. Instead of using wire nuts, there's spring-loaded terminal strip connections. And with all our duct mounted product, there's actual a mounting plate. So the installer can go around, mount the mounting plate, snap the sensor on, and if the sensor has to be removed for any reason, there's no tools necessary. He doesn't have to pull out a screwdriver or a screw gun. He can just unsnap it from the mounting plate, do whatever's got to be done, troubleshoot it, look at it, wire it, whatever the case may be, snap it on the mounting plate on the duct and go away. So not only do we make the installation time a little more minimized up front, but for service and maintenance, it's also a whole lot easier to work on a Belimo sensor because of the mounting plate and that snap-on cover. Oh, and there is a picture of that snap-on cover that I was talking about. So again, very easy to install. And if any repairs or troubleshooting has to be done, the mounting plate stays on the duct and you simply remove the sensor from the mounting plate. So a quick review before we go into the product specifics, just a quick review of our product features. Again, screwless snap-on cover, detachable mounting plate. If you use communicating sensors. The Belimo product has both BACnet and Modbus in some of our offerings, not 100% of them, but whatever comm protocols we do employ, they're just going to be this industry standards of BACnet and Modbus. Again, as I mentioned, the universal design of the enclosure, so there's only 2 footprints that come with our enclosure, so they're all going to look the same. They're going to be very consistent, very easy to identify due to the orange color. All the outputs are really consistent, so it's going to be the same outputs you would get from all the standard product offerings in the industry to coincide with the standard analog input configurations of your controllers. And one of the big things here is that with our product, and this is going to be pretty much across the board, conduit fittings, mounting brackets, harnesses for cable sensors, pitot tubes, polytube, all the stuff that's required to install these sensors comes with the sensors. So there's no need to make another trip to the supply house, to run out to the truck. What you need to install the Belimo sensor is going to be in the box with the sensor. And for any of us who've been in the construction business, we know time is far more valuable than parts and pieces. As I mentioned, and I'm sure most of you know, all of our sensor enclosures are NEMA 4X and IP65 rated. They're all UL compliant. They have something called reverse polarity protection. So if you're using DC voltage and you get the polarity reversed, it won't damage the sensor. And again, instead of using wire nuts or any other kind of screw style connection, all of our sensors have spring-loaded terminal blocks that can be removed from a set of pins, wired up in your hand, and then plugged back into the sensor. So for those of you who are familiar with Belimo or have been to any Belimo meetings, we talk about CSM, comfort, energy, safety, installation, and maintenance. Our sensor line really focuses heavily on the installation and maintenance side of our quality products. And like I said, these are Belimo products, so they have the Belimo quality level that you can expect from our actuators and valves, and they also are covered by our Belimo 5-year warranty. So what we're going to do now is we're going to dive down and take a look at the product range itself. So we're going to break it down by temperature, humidity, and things like that. And of course, the first thing we're going to look at is temp sensors, because they're probably the most common sensors you use on a job. As I mentioned, the sensors have all the standard NTC, RTD, platinum, nickel outputs. Our active sensors are configurable with 8 ranges, so you can configure them from 0 to 10, 5 to 10, 4 to 20, 0 to 20, and other ranges like that. They have a bonded or what we call sintered moisture protection to protect the sensing element itself. So if there is excess of moisture somewhere in the area, it won't damage that sensing device. And again, we offer outdoor, duct averaging, duct immersion, which is going to be a pipe immersion, strap-on or surface mount, a cable style sensor, and low temperature cutout. Take a quick look at our sensor offering. Something I want to point out here when we look at the sensor offering is that the nomenclature is a little different. So it's important to know, if you're just becoming familiar with our sensor product range, is that 01 at the beginning of any part number is going to indicate a passive sensor. So like an NTC or a platinum or a nickel sensor, while a 22 at the beginning of the is going to be an active sensor with a voltage DC or milliamp output. So again, we offer outdoor air temperature sensors in both active and passive. We offer immersion and duct sensors in active and passive. So it's important to note that when you select a pipe sensor, so say you need an 8-inch pipe sensor for chilled water or hot water applications, you'll have to select a well to go along with it. So our pipe sensors do require a well. It's a separate part. If you use Belimo SELECTPRO to select your valves and actuators, you can also use it to select your sensors. And it will prompt you. It will say, oh, if this is a pipe application, make sure you select a well. And it will direct you to the proper size well for the application. We also have duct averaging sensors in both active and passive styles. One thing I like to say about this is where we really kind of focused on the complication of installing a duct averaging sensor. For those of you who've been in the field and had to roll out that copper or aluminum capillary tube, make sure it didn't get damaged, fish it in the ductwork, harness it around the coil and make sure it didn't get kinked, know that that's a process. That can be a time-consuming and relatively difficult and labor-intensive process. And sometimes you can't assign that to a newer employee or a more green helper because the sensor can be easily damaged. With our duct averaging sensor, it's a cable style sensor. So it's either one continual PT or NI sensor or a sensor with NTC beads in it that does the averaging. So all you're doing is fishing a cable into that air handler. And again, our averaging sensor is going to come with harnesses and all the necessary mounting hardware that you would need to install a duct averaging sensor. I'm confident that anybody installs a Belimo duct averaging sensor for the first time will never want to install another manufacturer's duct averaging sensor. We did a real nice job of making this an easy and intuitive product to install. We also have surface mount sensors for moisture detection and things like that, both available in active and passive models. The cable sensor, so if you have to have a remote cable probe to read a temperature maybe in a refrigeration application, we have those both in active and passive. And a low temperature detection sensor, simply a low temperature cutout style sensor with associated relays. Nothing too innovative there, but again, we try to make a product range that allows you to complete all your sensor needs from a submittal, a control submittal, or fill out a bill of materials for a project. When it comes to humidity sensors, we're first going to talk about our duct mount humidity sensors. Again, as I mentioned earlier, they're all plus or minus 2% accuracy. They're going to have different outputs, so you don't need a different sensor for relative or absolute humidity or dew point or enthalpy. All those values are jumper selectable outputs or analog outputs, and they can all be read via BACnet or Modbus. So that is to say, if you address one of these sensors and put them on your network, you can pull up a BACnet object for relative humidity, absolute humidity, dew point, and enthalpy all at the same time. Those that have active outputs have selectable output ranges. Our combination temp humidity sensors are not limited to active temperature outputs. They also are available with passive outputs. Because of the design of the enclosure, they're both moisture and contaminant resistant. And we have outdoor air temp and humidity, as well as just a surface mount condensation sensor, as well as our duct mount temp and humidity sensor. So we take a quick look at our humidity sensor and temperature sensor product range. Again, we have the outdoor active model, which is going to be a gray color. So instead of it being a bright orange box on the side of the building, what we've done is we've grayed out our outdoor temp and humidity sensor, and it's available in multiple types of mounting options with weather shields and things like that. Again, it's going to cover all the measured outputs, have the active signals. It's available in Modbus and BACnet. Same thing with the duct sensor, of course, though, that's going to be in that classic Belimo orange enclosure. All the temperature and humidity values are available and communicating as well. The condensation switch is really just that. It's a basic condensation switch that is powered. So one thing you have to keep in mind is that it's not a dry contact that's associated with our condensation switch. It has to be a powered application. So you'll have to send 24 volts to that condensation switch for it to be active and closed. When it comes to IAQ, first here we'll talk about our duct mount indoor air quality sensor. One thing all of our CO2 sensors have is something called dual channel CO2 calibration, and that's all based on NDIR technology. So we'll get a little bit in the weeds here on the technology. The dual channel CO2 calibration works with two CO2 sensors. So there is one CO2 sensor for measuring and one CO2 sensor for calibrating in the sensor housing. So periodically that sensor compares the measured value to a measured value to the calibration sensor and then adjusts accordingly. NDIR technology is non-dispersive infrared technology. And what it does is it only absorbs the gas that it's sensing. So it keeps the sensor very accurate, prevents any drift, and simply prolongs the life of the sensor because it's not sensing gases it's not looking for. Again, we have combination sensors, so you can get integrated VOC, CO2, temp, and humidity. They're low maintenance or maintenance free. And as you can see, it's a pretty wide range of combo sensors. We have CO2 by itself, CO2 and temperature, CO2 with temperature and humidity, CO2 and volatile organic compounds, as well as CO2 with VOC and temperature. So just a quick look at the overview of the air quality sensors. Again, everything, keep in mind, anytime it's an active output, the part number is going to begin with a 22. That's going to indicate active. As you can see here, everything is going to have CO2 as a standard option. Then you can select from temperature, humidity, volatile, organic compounds, CO2 or VO2 mix. And we do have the BACnet and Modbus options available for the CO2 and indoor air quality sensors. And they're also available with a LCD display, much like the temperature and humidity sensors that are available for duct mount applications. Another area we have developed is pressure sensors for the air side of the business. So of course, the most important thing in most variable airflow systems is going to be the DP sensor. The DCP sensor is an accurate sensor with selectable output ranges, about a 0.8 to 4 second response time, which is adjustable. And when I say accuracy, we're plus or minus 0.2% or 0.2 inches of water column below 2 inches of water column, and above 2 inches of water column measure differential, we are plus or minus 0.4% accuracy, or I'm sorry, 0.4 inches of water column accuracy. They're available with a manual or a true auto calibration. So if you've got DP sensors that are either located in spaces that are difficult to get to or in critical applications, that true auto zero calibration can prevent you from having to go back and either get into a tight spot or infringe on the day-to-day operations of maybe an operating room or some sort of critical environment. Again, this particular product offering, the airside DP, presently is only available with Modbus. We do not have BACnet at the time. I'm not sure if BACnet's coming on the airside DP, but I will keep everyone posted and let you know what happens there. We also have a standard differential air pressure switch, often used as a safety or things like that, just an air cutout. But again, a full product offering range of airside DP and airside differential pressure switch. So all the standard airside differential and absolute pressure offerings are available through Belimo. On the liquid side, we have both water side differential and water or refrigerant absolute or gauge pressure sensor offerings. So on the differential pressure side, we have ranges that go from 0 to 15 psid, all the way up to 0 to 100 psid in differential. The gauge pressure or absolute pressure, the ranges go from 0 to 15 psi to 0 to 200 psi. And this is a very basic analog output offering, no communication associated with the differential liquid pressure sensors or absolute liquid pressure sensor, but a standard, robust, very competitively priced DP and absolute or gauge pressure sensor. Again, the gauge pressure sensor can be used with water or refrigerant, while the differential pressure sensor is strictly designed for water side applications. So a quick overview of our pressure and DP sensors. Again, we have the active air side differential pressure sensor. which is available with Modbus communications and an LCD, as well as auto zero calibration. The standard air pressure switch is simply an airside DP switch used in safety applications and things like that. And then water pressure and water differential pressure with varying different pressure ranges and analog outputs. So the water side pressure offering is fairly basic, while the duct air side differential pressure offering is pretty sophisticated, and that air side pressure switch is just what it is. It's an air side pressure switch. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Belimo, I'm sure you have heard something or another about the Belimo electronic pressure independent valve or the Belimo energy valve. These are products that have been on the market, the electronic pressure independent valve, since the mid-2000s. The energy valve has been on the market for about eight and a half years now. And these valves use flow metering devices to maintain pressure independent control across the range of the output from the controller. When we initially introduced the EPIV and the energy valve, we used something called a magnetic flow meter. And over time, Belimo developed their own ultrasonic flow meter technology. So instead of employing technology that someone else manufactured for us, we developed ultrasonic flow metering technology that is used in our electronic pressure independent valves and our energy valves, but it is also available as a standalone analog output flow meter. So these are going to be calibrated, multi-point wet calibrated flow meters. We developed something called glycol compensation. So as the viscosity of the liquid changes due to the amount of glycol that's in the system, the meter knows to compensate to keep the accuracy of the flow reading very high, which is generally going to be plus or minus 2.5% of accuracy with a plus or minus 0.5% of repeatability. They don't take a lot of power. They're relatively small, and these are inline flow meters. So at the time, this is not an insertion style meter. It's a simple volumetric ultrasonic flow meter that uses transit time technology. Very accurate, very cost effective, and in new installations, it's a great product. It's a great product if you've got the pipe open and you can fit either a threaded or a flanged flow metering product in there. The reliability and point of purchase cost, it makes this a really competitive and high quality product to install. So again, we have two size ranges, the 2 inches down to 1/2 inch. So we have a threaded product in ultrasonic flow metering as well as a flange product up to 6 inches. Our flange product is available in both ANSI 125 and ANSI 250. So again, a pretty comprehensive offering of ultrasonic flow meters for inline applications. So that is the overview. That is the crux of the initial Belimo sensor product offering. So we've been in the business of sensors for several years now, and that was sort of where we started. You know, actuators go on dampers and ducts, valves go in pipes. So we started with our core competencies kind of in our wheelhouse and developed a pipe and duct offering for the sensor side of the business. But earlier this year, we introduced our room sensors. So Belimo makes wall modules, basically wall mount temperature, humidity, and CO2 sensors that you work with standard VAV controllers or fan coil units or air handlers or any type of equipment that requires the measurement of temperature, humidity, and CO2 in a space. We have a couple different models. We have models with active outputs, your standard passive output model, standard 10K type 2, 10K type 3, 20K NTC, and also a passive model with standard passive sensors with a set point dial or set point adjustments. With our active units, they can all be configured via NFC and the Belimo Assistant. So if you have not seen this, Belimo offers a download for both iPhone and Android that communicates with our NFC capable devices. All the active sensor wall mount sensors that Belimo makes have NFC in them. And so you can simply open up the Belimo Assistant, put it next to the sensor. It's going to find the sensor. It's going to open up the sensor's parameters. You can adjust the active outputs and the measured values and things like that. And what you'll find is this technology has been employed in other Belimo products as well. So if you are familiar with the new generation Belimo butterfly valve and something we call PR or the PKR actuator, that has got NFC technology in it as well. And I believe over time, we're going to see more and more Belimo products that have the configuration capabilities accessible to them via NFC, as opposed to using something like PC Tool or the ZTH US. So we're trying to develop a little more intuitive and easy to use product for configuration purposes. And again, the active sensors that we offer all have NFC in them. The wall modules are available with or without the Belimo logo. And what you'll see is these are really nice looking sensors. They're small, they're thin. The override button is hidden on the side. So they're very unintrusive, especially if you mount them in a occupied space, say a standard active or passive wall module without a set point dial is hardly even noticeable. It's thin, slim, has a low profile, and just a very aesthetically pleasing sensor for wall mount applications. When it comes to the passive outputs, of course, we cover the gamut. PT1000s, NTC 10K type 2 and 3, the 20K NTC. The accuracies of the PT1000s are plus or minus 0.5 degrees Fahrenheit. The NTC models are plus or minus 0.35 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, manual override is standard, and it's not really visible. So if you look at this image here, you don't see the override. It's actually on the left-hand side, kind of hidden. So not everybody can just go in and override the VAV box or the fan coil unit. You've got to know where the override is. A very low profile and something called low wall coupling factor, which I'll explain pretty simply. We know that sometimes there is a draft in the wall, so if the wall's not insulated, you may pick up radiant temperature from inside the wall, either through the junction box. In some cases, depending on the installation parameters, the sensor is not even mounted to a junction box. So the way it's designed is the temperature sensing element is isolated a little bit inside the housing, and it prevents it from picking up any transient temperatures that come in through the walls and things like that. We offer passive set point, which is pretty common in a lot of applications. So again, the same passive sensor ratings, PT1000, 10K type 2s, type 3s, 20K NTCs, same accuracies. They have a set point dial with a resistive output. The majority of them are going to be a 0 to 10 kilo ohm output, except for the PT1000 model, which is going to have a 0 to 1 kilo ohm output. Again, nice clean Belimo design, and override is standard on all the passive units. When we look at our active output sensors, they're a little more flexible. So you have a temperature, a temp humidity, and of course a temp humidity and CO2 output. These are all active, so these are going to be all voltage style outputs, or they can communicate via our MP bus to specific devices. But those outputs are adjustable, as you can see, using that Belimo Assistant and an iPhone or Android. So you can field configure those. You don't have to connect to the controller to do it. You can simply connect to the wall module to change the wall module's output. They have one digital input for aux sensors, window alarm, things like that. Everything's fully selectable. You can select from humidity and dew point. And again, it's just a comprehensive room sensor offering that's up to the Belimo quality, rugged construction, sleek design, really an aesthetically pleasing and flexible room sensor or wall module offering. So that's about it for our existing sensor offering. So that kind of covers what we have on the market in our product guide and price list or catalog as of today. However, coming out in 1921, that wouldn't be good. Coming out in 2021, we are going to introduce BTU meters. So initially, we're going to come out with a 1/2 inch to 2 inch inline BTU metering offering. It's going to be BACnet capable. It's going to have a LCD display. It's also going to speak Modbus, and it will be accessible via near-field communications as well. So what you're seeing here is a little preview of next year's BTU metering offering. And I'm sure this product line will grow beyond the 1/2 inch to 2 inch to the 2.5 to 6 inch flanged offering in coming years. So that is the overview of our product line. I just talk a little bit about Belimo itself. When you buy Belimo sensors, you're truly buying a Belimo product. So this is not a third-party product that we're purchasing and rebranding. This is Belimo technology. It has all the same Belimo qualities, our valve and actuator offering. You have all the service and support you would get from our tech support guys. It's just like you would get it on valves and actuators. We can, whether it be Rob or Anthony or whoever your local sales manager, can help out with product selection and placement, help you with progress, make sure you're getting the product you need. Our tech support guys are there to help you if you have any questions about configuration or setup or troubleshooting. And again, most importantly, our sensors have the Belimo 5-year warranty. So again, it is truly a Belimo product that we cover no differently and support no differently than we would our valve and actuator offering. Lots of information available on the website regarding our sensors and of course our other product offering. So if you go to belimo.us, you can get all the specs and offerings for the Belimo pipe, duct, and wall mount sensors. But of course, there's the actuator and valve technology information as well. As I mentioned a little earlier, we have a module now in SELECTPRO, and hopefully some of y'all are using SELECTPRO. I believe it has been recently updated, so there should be a little bit more up-to-date and accurate information. And again, the sensor section will help you decide on what you need. And also, if you select a product that needs an additional component like a well, SELECTPRO will guide you to selecting the proper well, say for a pipe insertion application. It makes sure you get all the stuff you need to go along with the application. You can pipe it up into an Excel spreadsheet, send it to your local sales manager or to Belimo for a quote. There'll be links to data sheets and things like that. SELECTPRO does allow you to build a full bill of materials. So if you're purchasing valves, actuators, and sensors, you can just switch between the different modules and it will build you a bill of materials that again can be exported into Excel, sent to an engineer for review, or sent to Belimo for pricing. And so that pretty much covers the Belimo product sensor offering. As we know, a lot of good qualities, toolless entry, snap-on cover, NEMA 4X rating, lots of flexibility in the outputs and the measured values. Because we have a lot of combination sensors, one sensor covers a lot of application, very accurate, very robust products. And again, it's a Belimo product, so as you can see here, it comes with our standard 5-year warranty, along with all our standard world-class customer service and technical support. So on behalf of the nice folks at Broudy Precision, and my colleagues, Mr. Rob Rands and Mr. Anthony Khalil, I'd like to thank you for attending our webinar. And I'd like to open up to any questions or conversation. Mr. Rands, you got anything to add here?
Steve, this is Rob. Excellent job, first of all. The only thing I would add would be that we know that there's a lot of sensor choices out there, and we're relatively new into the standalone sensor business. I just want to offer to the customers out there that might be, skeptical to try, and the Broudy guys to contact me and get your samples. I'm a big believer of you have to see it, and you have to get it in the hands of the installers for them to see the value of it, because it really does sell itself, as a lot of our products do. They have to have it in their hands. So, samples, I'm a big fan of samples. So contact your Broudy guys, and who will in turn contact me and get those samples in the installer's hands. We actually have demo cases that really demonstrate the BACnet sensors with backnet controllers. So, to get a CO2 sensor that gives all this information, temperature, humidity, all these combinations back via backnet is very valuable. As well as a cross-reference sheet. There's a master cross-reference sheet, to cross a BAPI, an ACI, a Johnson sensor to a Belimo. So we'll certainly help you with all that. So that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, and Rob, I got to echo that one of the big advantages, and coming from the field, having spent a long time, I've probably installed thousands, tens of thousands of duct mount temp sensors. The design really is conducive to the installer. It's going to save people time. Once they start installing Belimo sensors, they're going to really prefer to use our product just because it's that easy and intuitive. You can give it to a low level, an entry level guy or girl and have them install it. It's very intuitive, very easy, and saves a lot of time.
Hey Rob, it's George from Broudy. Just send a pallet to Broudy and we'll distribute them.
You guys have your own inventory, by the way, you can pull from for samples. No, I don't want that either. Good point, George.
Send a bunch over. Well, we'll throw them in the cars, and when we're out seeing customers, we definitely give them out.
Yeah, and we did that when we started a couple years ago. Yep. I don't know if those samples got their way to the sales force, but if there are specifics, we can talk about what you should be showing your customers, or and again, I like finding the installer that's spend a lot of time with testing and the screwdriver thing. I think that once they install these snap-on covers and they save all that time in the field, it'll sell itself.
Yeah, and that mounting bracket, for the NEMA 4 housing really is a nice feature. Again, all the hardware, all the oddball stuff to pick up tubes, the harnesses, the poly tube, again, it comes with the sensor. So when a guy takes a sensor out of his truck or out of the gang box, it's got everything it needs. It's one trip to the location, not two. And nothing's more frustrating than getting up on the ladder, getting where you need to be, and needing something else. So Belimo's done a very nice job of making the installation side of this really easy and intuitive. Anthony, do you have anything to add? Anything you want to say to your customer base while we're doing a little Q&A here?
He's still having audio issues.
Oh, that's right. Sorry about that, Anthony. Broudy guys, attendees, anybody have any questions, any concerns, any criticisms, we're always open to input. We like to hear what the voice of the customer is and take it back to our engineers and our designers and see what we can do to make this a more sellable and a more acceptable product range. So if there's any input from those non-Belimo folks on the call, please feel free to speak up and interject. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
So this is George with Broudy. I mean, I think we saw a good amount of the sensors. The only one I was thinking of was the JCI VAV whip? I don't think is available. The 01CT, the 1K, is that correct?
Oh, I think you're right, George. Yes, that is correct. Our only Johnson offering is the Nickel 1000. Johnson specific, anyway.
Right, in the one with the whip on it. Is that going to change at all? Because I mean, we sell a lot of Johnson.
Hey, I can't give you a definitive answer on that right now, George, but generally we do respond to things like that, and I would assume that someone's looking at the quantity and just the feasibility of the scale of it. Again, I can't give you a real firm answer on that, but I'll dig into it and see what I can't find out.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Well,
Dustin, are you trying to talk? You're on mute. I just didn't know. You're on mute? Were you trying to ask a question?
This is Paul. Yeah. Where's the cross reference found?
Ooh, Rob, can you answer that?
Well, it's an updated thing, and I have the latest version. I can certainly email that to you. I think I've sent it to a couple guys there over. I think I just sent it to Diane last week. So I'll send you the latest. It's an Excel sheet. It does get updated when more information. It's got the major sensor manufacturers in there. You have to kind of uncheck everything and then check the manufacturer you're trying to cross-reference off, and then you pull their model number up, and it should give you our reference. And again,
hey, Rob,
this
is Brian. You send it to me, and I'll make sure everybody else gets it.
Yeah, sure, we'll do.
And then for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, we have a Belimo retrofit app. So also available on Google Play or the App Store. And it's probably covers about 80% of the sensoring offering out there. So if your outside guys want a quick and easy reference, they can download that to their phone, pull it up at any time. It also helps with actuator retrofits as well.
Thank you.
All right, guys, unless there's anything else, again, unless there's anything else, I'm going to wrap it up here, but I appreciate everyone's time. Feel free to reach out to Rob or Anthony or myself if you have any questions. Thanks once again. And Paul and Brian, once again, I want to thank you both directly for affording us this opportunity. And please let us know if you'd like to do any additional webinars or virtual trainings in the future. We're happy to help you out with this until everybody gets cut loose and we get back to normal. All right, well, thanks once again. I appreciate everyone's time and have a great day.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, guys.